Lolo, Lolo, ये इसको कर दो गाट इट, ये गाट इट कर दो, ठीक है, रोने काट दो, ठीक.
Good evening, everyone. At this 91st Sunday Sahityik Satsang of iSPELL, I would like to request Professor G. A. Ghanshyam sir, founder and General Secretary of iSPELL, to welcome the audience and guests and introduce the event coordinator of this month. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pramod. A very good evening to all the people, those who have assembled on the platform of iSPELL, which is popularly known as Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature. Indeed, it's a great pleasure that all the people, the literary stalwarts, and the people, those who are interested in all the literary activities, they do join us on Sundays to call this particular event as the Sunday Sahityik Satsang. Friends, it's always said, 100 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. And one day with a great teacher makes a lot of difference in our lives. And we have gone a long way as far as the pandemic is concerned. And during this pandemic, what has happened in a very positive way is pan-academic. We have converted the pandemic into pan-academic by forming iSPELL. And since then, iSPELL has been doing various activities, not only on the Sundays, but also by collaborating itself with various institutions of higher education by providing them the faculty development programs, international conferences, certificate courses, value-added courses, and whatnot. iSPELL is always devoted towards updating, upgrading, uplifting the stakeholders to uphold education. That's the basic aim of iSPELL. And today, on the 91st Sunday Sahityik Satsang, we have another event of iSPELL. I take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Preeti Chaudhary to all of us, who is going to be the coordinator for this month of June. Dr. Preeti Chaudhary is Assistant Professor of English at the University of Rajasthan. She is very well known as far as her works related to transgenders are concerned. During pandemic, she has been associated with all these transgenders and has gathered the feelings and emotions of these people and has been working relentlessly for the upliftment of these transgenders, whom we always see with another kind of an eye of ours. And she has been associated with the academic programs and administrative programs at the same time. And she happens to be the president of iSPELL Rajasthan Forum. She has published various research papers in national and international journals, and she has published 2 books, out of which one is her collection of poems. A poet by heart and a true academician, Dr. Preeti Chaudhary has been doing wonders in the field of academics. With great pleasure and honor, I welcome Dr. Preeti Chaudhary as the coordinator of the month of June, and I hand over the stage to Dr. Preeti Chaudhary.
Thanks a lot, Ghanshyam sir. Thanks a lot for such a elaborate introduction. And my hearty welcome to one and all to this 91st E-Sahityik Satsang, which is usually held on Sundays. So it's my proud privilege to welcome you all on behalf of iSPELL India, which gave out this opportunity to Rajasthan Forum to host the events for the entire month of June. And in this month, we shall be coming up with variety of topics themed on eco-criticism, with distinction of eminent speakers across the borders. So, and as we celebrate the World Environment Day today, it's such a significant day to launch our dives into the depths of eco-criticism. And Eco-criticism, as we all know, studies the relationship of humans with the environment. It analyzes the works of art on their treatment of nature in them. If humans were the heroes of works of literature for long, eco-criticism sort of reverses the narrative towards making the environment as a hero of the text, and often we find humans acting as the anti-heroes in harming the nature and environment in the course of this analysis. So the term eco-criticism, this was coined by William Ruckert in 1978 in his essay Literature and Ecology, Experiment with Eco-Criticism. The term eco-criticism opens up an interdisciplinary field of analysis, which divulges into the connections between literature and environment. And in regard to protection and environment conservation, tribes have always been very close to the nature and its protection. They deify the nature as the supreme source of their subsistence. We have always find them fighting to protect deforestation or any human intervention towards destruction of natural resources. So on this World Environment Day, what else could have been a better discourse to start with than about the eco concerns reflected in the Indian tribal literature through their translations. And as I feel that translations too are just an ecological way to protect the ethnic voices in literature. So it's a kind of conservation of ethnic voices. And it's my honor to inaugurate, and it's our honor to inaugurate the series of events with such a dynamic presence of Professor Abidi as a keynote professor. This 75-year-old gentleman who likes to call himself as the gladiator of the classroom is a living example of energy and academic fervor in his jubilees. So I, on behalf of iSPELL, welcome you all and thank you for being here. So again, I welcome Dr. K.S. Saradhambal on the chair for the event. We are humbled, ma'am, with your presence and look forward to your reflections on the session. I welcome Professor Ghansham, sir, General Secretary and founder of iSPELL, with the entire team of executives and members to the event. I welcome the audience to the session, and without testing much of your patience, dear audience, I welcome you all and hand over the reins of the session to our Master of Ceremonies for today, who is Miss Shweta Sir. She is a lecturer of English at Humanities and Social Science Department in Assam Downtown University, Guwahati. And she has a varied research interest. She has done her MPhil and shows a varied research interest. I welcome you to steer the session forward. Ms. Shweta, sir. Shweta ma'am, you need to.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Preeti Chaudhary ma'am, for the welcome address and for introducing us with the mission and vision of today's e-Sahityik Sunday Sahityik Satsang in brief. Today, I feel very happy and honored to share the space in today's event as the Master of Ceremonies. I take the privilege to welcome you all to the 91st e-Sunday Sahityik Satsang on Indian tribal literature in English translation Eco Concerns, being conducted by iSPELL. The society's agenda is to facilitate and elevate, and here through this platform, let us pledge today that we shall devote ourselves to safeguard and nurture our earth. Moving on with our event, let me introduce our keynote speaker. Today we are really fortunate enough to have with us Professor Abidi, who is a renowned professor and former head of the Department of English, University of Lucknow. He had taught from the year 1971 to 2019 at Saket PG College, Faizabad, Gorakhpur University, Lucknow University and Integral University, Lucknow. He has been a visiting faculty at FLU Lucknow campus and academic counselor at IGNOU. He has successfully supervised 39 PhD theses and 1 DLit. He has been the examiner of 35 Indian universities of PhDs and has lectured on literature at 10 HRDC of different universities. With this brief introduction, I would like to request Sir to start his lecture.
Sir, you have to unmute yourself. You'll need to unmute yourself. We're not able to listen to you. Take your time, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Absolutely audible and visible, sir.
Okay. They say that all art is autobiographical. And so, seeing the climate crisis, global warming, ecocide, pollution, I have written a number of haikus on these issues. So through my haikus, I will illustrate some of the points because, 22 years ago, when I was lecturing on multiple Shakespeare, and I posed a question to a member of the audience, what do you understand by green Shakespeare? The answer he gave still amused me. He said that green Shakespeare means Shakespeare portrayed jealousy, Othello, and he called jealousy green-eyed monster. Now the point to underscore is this, that this eco-criticism started in 1978 and it became a major theoretical movement in the 90s, and today it is now a tidal wave and it is known under different rubrics of eco-criticism, environmental criticism, ecological criticism, green studies, and so forth and so on. Now, the problem today is, in one of my haikus, I wrote, mass ecocide, there is mass murder of nature, global warming all around, human planet gas. Then, as you know, if you abuse nature, then nature retaliates. So another haiku of mine is man's sinful hubris, nature fury retaliates, dance of death all around. Now, the main problem with man is portrayed by me in one of my haikus is that nature's bounty. Nature is benign. Nature gives us. Man's domination. Nature's bounty, man's dominator. Man's domination, eco-disaster. Entire eco-disaster is because of man's domination of nature. And I will tell you that in contrast to the civilized man, tribals do not dominate nature. They depend on nature. They do not ravage nature, and their entire life is deeply implicated with ecology. But then, tribals are the most primitive people. And when for the first time man was born on this earth, he was lyrically moved by racing clouds, blue skies, snow-capped mountains, murmuring brooks, chirping birds. And this was the birth of poetry. So man's identity is that he is a creature of elemental romanticism, what I call elemental romanticism. And he developed a sense of awe and wonder towards nature, and it led to realization of godhood. And in all scriptures, one of my students did a PhD on eco-criticism and scriptures. So in all scriptures, we have emphasis on ecology, ecological concerns, and in some cases we have nature worship, because nature, there are three polarities: God, man, God, nature, man, nature. And in fact, all scriptures deal with only this triangular relationship of God, man, and the universe. And the universe, by universe we mean the environment, the ecology, etc. So lying in the jungle, exposed to the elements, midnight sky. This is my haiku. Midnight sky, monologue of wonder, muses meteor. Now all my haikus underline the interconnectedness of man's existence. Nowadays there is global warming, the heat is very oppressive, and it is reported that a person, committed suicide to avoid this oppressive heat of this universe. Now, in eco-criticism, nature is the center, not the man. Man is not the center. Nature is the center, and that's why now writers are being taken up for reassessment from the angle of eco-criticism. That's why we use the expression green Shakespeare. Now, as I just now told you, that eco-criticism is now a tidal wave, and it is an interdisciplinary approach of ecology, literature, environment, and other things. But from the dawn of civilization, when man was primitive and he was away from the complex dynamics of urban living, he wrote about nature. He wrote about the changing colors of the sky. He wrote about dawn. And please pardon me for boring you, but this haiku of mine shows, a tender concern for ecology. Tender rays touch down, the earth smiles back at rosy dawn, flowers bloom with joy. Emerson said that flowers are the smile of the Mother Earth. Now, with this background, I would like to tell you that, because Preeti has already introduced eco-criticism, green studies, etc., etc. Now, in eco-criticism, our major concern is representation of nature and culture. How nature is represented in literature and culture, and how, we also have eco-feminism also. So all these issues will come up in my discussion. But by way of the background, I recited some of my haikus to show that I'm also worried about whatever is happening to ecology. And it is all man-made. Man tried to dominate. Now, tribal life is deeply implicated with ecology. And I still remember, I taught Australian literature for decades. So there's a poem by Judith Wright, The Ancestor. And here, who are the ancestors? The Australian landscape, its rivers, its rugged terrain, they are the ancestors. And as you know that Judith Wright was deeply influenced and was a great supporter of Jindi Overback movement, that in order to achieve nationalism, and as all of you know that for the birth and development of any literature, there are 5 factors responsible: history, culture, language, identity, and nationalism. Now, tribals of the entire world have a same kind of existence, and history was denied to them. Enlightenment was the darkest period for them because they were wretched of the earth. But with the advent of post-colonialism, because post-colonialism, as Meenakshi Mukherjee said, is an emancipatory concept, and it is a discourse of marginals. So post-colonialism gave us what is called new humanities, Dalit studies, women's studies, tribal studies, because of a happy, blend of postmodernism, postcolonialism, and feminism. They impacted literary approaches after 1950, and marginality became a source of creative strength. So they say that some include tribal literature as part of new literatures. No, tribal literature is not new literature. Our interest in them is new, and calling tribal literature as part of new literature is a misnomer, because they have existed, tribal literature has existed since times immemorial, and we have primitive vernacular poetry, because unlike feminism, unlike Dalit literature, tribal literature does not believe in the self. Tribal literature is marked by collective community consciousness about ecology. In contemporary tribal literature, there is a political dimension, because tribals are being displaced. Tribals are moving to cities. Their land, because of LPG, liberalization, privatization, and all that global economy, their land is being snatched from them. their forests are being snatched from them. They are being deprived. They are being erased. So, contemporary tribal literature is about identity. But in between, tribal literature is an evidence of pure surrender to ecology. And because we have tribal literature in English translation from Northeast, from Seven Sisters. Nature is always there. You cannot separate tribal existence from ecology, from nature. But as Mahadev Topo, one of the poets, says, I am a poet of forest. I plant trees and poems too. I found that today the scenario is very promising. Every year, tribal writers are being translated into English. So what began as orality is now having the status of globality. Now they are being read because, they were written in their dialects. But nowadays there is interest. But as I told you, contemporary, as I would like to So as I said that earlier who were on the margin are now in the center. किनारे पर होकर खड़े देखी थी रवानी मौजों की, किनारे पर होके खड़े देखी थी रवानी मौजों की, है आज उन्हीं के हाथों में सारी कहानी मौजों की. Now those who were on the brink are now in the center. But as I said, unlike Dalit literature, unlike feminist literature, both in Dalit literature and feminist literature, the dominant genre is autobiography. Although in one of the seminars, I pointed out that Dalit autobiography becomes biography of their community. But in case of tribal literature, the dominant genre is poetry, both oral and written. We have a very rich treasure of oral poetry from times immemorial down to the present. And their poetry is a reflection of their devotion to nature, their concern for ecology, their concern for, as you know, yes, just a minute. You know, one of my haikus summed up, tribals, tribe, totem, tattoo, shaman, sorcery, sylvan echo, civilized, called primitive. But these primitives, aborigines, are always clubbed with sylvan ecology, sylvan habitat, sylvan living. And, most of the tribal gotras are totemic. Their totems are tortoise, snakes, bees, butterflies. So they celebrate the interconnectedness of nature with human existence. And they have celebrated in their folk song, in their poems. We have Desinda Karkate from Jharkhand, who is a powerful poet who talks of Angor. And she has written about the various aspects of tribal life and also violence against women. Now, violence against tribal women is a fact, and that's why such writers are now pioneering what is called tribal feminism after Dalit feminism. After that, now we are talking of tribal feminism, where Dalit women are voicing their concerns. Now, from central province, that is, I mean, this side, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, we do not have tribal writers being translated into English. We have only G.N. Davies' painted verse, where he has represented tribal literature. So I found that tribal literature uses organic imagery from nature, and thereby it shows their tender concern. In fact, my major focus is on this book by Dr. Warrior Edwin, Folk Songs of Chhattisgarh and Folk Songs of Macal Hills. And Warrior Edwin is an Oxford scholar. He was trained in English literature, trained in science. He devoted his entire life to tribal studies in India. He even married, a tribal girl. Although today some tribals are angry with him because he was part of the missionary. So this charge was leveled against him of, converting people to Christianity. But the fact remains that he was a great scholar, a true Orientalist who did not distort tribal life. In one of my lectures, I talked of models of Orientalism. So, because people think that Edward Said's model is the only model. We have Edward Said's model is New Orientalism, whereas we have Old Orientalism. The West interested in the East, in the Orient, for purposes of knowledge, for satisfying their curiosity. We have Dr. Edwin Arnold, Oriental Trilogy. Now, Dr. Warrior Edwin has documented and translated 600 or 700 tribal songs into English. I studied them and found that everywhere there is involvement of tribal life with nature, with ecology. And as you know, in earlier times, we had, until Virgil allegorized pastoral poetry, we had four main forms of pastoral poetry: Eclogue, Bucolic, Georgic, and Idyll. Now I found, strangely enough, that tribals represent primary human nature. I use the word carbon. They are carbon, not diamond. They are unsophisticated, but their responses to nature are pure and joyous. So, tribal poetry, tribal folk song carry elements of eclogue. We call it Bara Masi. In eclogue, remember Spencer's Shepherd's Calendar. description of 12 months. So in folk songs, we have Baramasi song, Death of Sardi, different festivals related to different months, they are being celebrated. But one thing which is very curious and which Edwin Various has pointed out, that tribal songs talk of nature, talk of bee, talk of butterfly, talk of other things, talk of red flower, but they refer to facts of life, different stages of life, birth, marriage, death, seasonal songs. And as you know that Georgics is about farming equipment. We have them, all these forms are present in their raw form, unlike the West. So there is a song, because this kind of symbolism is called Urang symbolism. We have, that's why I use the word, their imagery is organic, their imagery is raw. And I will just read a paragraph to give you an idea of what Various Elvin has done.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. It would be great if you could spell out those technical terms.
Which?
Urav and whatever, there are something which are technical terms. So it would be great if you could spell it out for our.
I told you that pastoral poetry always portrays nature, shepherds, greenery, and it has 4 varieties. One is iklag. Iklag means description of months and seasons. Then we have bakolik. Bakolik is description of habitat, sylvan dwelling. Then we have Georgic, farming equipments, etc., etc., winnowing and reaping and sowing. Then we have Idil, a description of picturesque scenery. So my argument is that folk songs sung by tribals have all these forms in their incipient form. Naturally, they had not studied Homer, they had not studied Virgil, they had not studied Theocritus, but it's natural. If you are, as I said at the beginning, that man's original identity lies in the lap of nature. He's a son of the soil. If he moved away from nature, it was suicidal, as Wordsworth says. That's why Wordsworth advocates. Rousseau says, back to nature. Wordsworth says, return to nature. Because man's identity, and as you know, since industrial revolution, we had so many deaths. Death of nature, death of God, death of love. And that's why you see the wasteland. In Victorian age, love was alive and kicking in Dover Beach. But in wasteland, love has been replaced by mechanical relationship. Remember the typist girl episode. So man has been, civilized man has been suicidal in his going away from nature, from God, from love. And that's why he is left with nothing to support his existence. And that's why he is bored. And that's why we have the cult of suicide in modern age. Nowadays, this is the age of suicide. People are committing suicide. And reasons are existential, because they do not have any belief system. They do not have nature. They have no sense of belonging. We do not hear any tribal committing suicide. You have to understand this climate crisis in a broad framework. So what I was saying, that Naturally, tribals did not study French symbolism, or they did not study Homer, they did not study Virgil. So their literature is organic literature. It grows from their soil. And as I quoted Mahadev Tuppo, I'm a poet of the forest. I plant trees, but I also plant poems. Then I was rather, wonderstruck because I found, just a minute. This is called, Uram method. Uram is one of the tribes found in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Method of symbolism. The poems being apparently about objects of nature. The poems are about objects of nature, but actually referring to aspects of marriage and other life. Just please forgive me. This is a folk song about what is called menarche. menarche. Menarche means attaining puberty. So there are folk songs about girls attaining puberty. And see, the red flower, has blossomed. The lake has broken its banks. The lemons have ripened. The tender wheat cake is ready for dinner. I was very surprised because this is advanced kind of symbolism that you have. Then we have poems about love and approach to marriage, about tattooing, about seasons, and there are images of snail, cobra, snake, butterfly, and bee. Now, it's a bulky collection, so I can't go on reciting, but we have folk songs on all aspects of life, and dominant symbolism is flower symbolism. Dominant symbolism is a flower symbolism. Symbolism of bees, symbolism of butterfly, symbolism of cobra. I'll just give you please forgive me. I'll just give you some we have folk songs about the beginning of life, pregnancy songs, delivery songs, cradle songs, tattooing songs, songs of the menarche, puberty, the nature of love, assignation, dreams, beauty, hair, the diamond, the hunchback, the dancing harp, the kite, the cloud, the bee. Kalidas is an example of eco-poetry. Ted Hughes is an animal poet, and they are all being reassessed and reinterpreted in the light of eco-criticism. You have everything here. Then you have marriage songs. Then we have husband and wife relationship. Life in the farm. They have Jarjiks. Jarjiks is about farming equipments. Song about grain. Reaping song. Song of the husker. Song of the threshing floor. A song of selling vegetables. A churning, a weaving. Seasonal song. Hunting song. Songs about birds. Fishing songs. Then there are some political songs also. Because remember, tribals live in the lap of nature, and they sustain their life by whatever nature gives them. They do not deforest the forest. They do not pollute the rivers. But just a minute. Remember, tribals are, because there are three villains of rural India: the landlord, the village priest, and the village baniya, the money lender. So here we have a poem: money lenders' exploitation of tribals, as in this Turi song of Manpur Kamar. Kamar is a tribal community. The girl goes out every day in the morning and comes back home in the evening. She takes out the kosa cocoon and collects lac in her basket. For 7 years she has done it and given all to Kasam Seth. But Kasam Seth is a difficult man, for with this he is not pleased. 7 years back, they borrowed from him 20 rupees, and having given him all this kosa and lac, they have yet to pay him 20. After doing so much, she has yet to pay 20. Now, one of the latest developments in tribal life is that tribal girls are being kidnapped and sold to prostitution by, the proponents of urban existence and all that. So I also wrote a haiku on it, because tribals have not mentioned it in their literature, but soon, as I said you, we have the onset of tribal feminism and violence against Bhil women, violence against Jharkhand women. They are being highlighted in their literature. So my haiku is: untouched tribal girl, sold for the cost of gold facial. Women must know what is gold facial. It's very costly. It costs 800, 1000 rupees. So, untouched tribal girls sold for the cost of gold facial. India is becoming Vishguru. Now, India is becoming Vishguru. On the other hand, tribals are being driven away from their land, from their rivers, although they are the original landlords of this universe. They are the original landlord of the earth, of the forest. And I would advise you to get hold of Varial Edwin's translation of Chhattisgarh folk songs, which are mostly tribal songs. They cover all aspects of life, and they are very raw and tender. Their poetry, we have this division of raw poetry and cooked poetry. Their poetry is not cooked. Their poetry is raw. And this division is maintained in relation to Kamala Das. Kamala Das's poetry is raw, whereas Shiv K. Kumar's poetry is cooked. So tribal literary poetry is raw. Tribal poetry is carbon, not diamond, unsophisticated, but they cover all aspects of nature. They cover all aspects of ecological existence. Even tiny creatures are being taken care. And as I told you, their gotras are totemic, so animals are respected. And they, now there is a strange thing in this new age ethos, when man is dissatisfied with grass materialism, he is going back to roots. He likes to live in the jungle, in his farmhouse. He likes to live in a hut. He wants to have food from leaf cup, and he wants to enjoy mahua chaat, and he wants ethnic jewelry, tribal dress. And as you know, postmodern women like tattoos on their thighs, on their breast, on their back, a butterfly, etc., etc. Now, all this is imitation of tribal life, and we have a tattoo song. I would like to, because tattoo is part of tribal life, and tattoo is a kind of identity marker. So every tribe has a unique tattoo. Just a minute. Please forgive me, just a minute. Yes. You know, tattooing is now considered postmodern, and postmodern women, as you know, the newly born women, they like tattoos on their high thigh slit, on their back, on their bosoms. So it is all there in tribal songs. Tattoo me gently, tattoo. First do my mother-in-law, then do my sister-in-law, then do my aunts. Tattoo me gently, tattoo. First do the anklets on my feet, then do my thighs. Notice what? Tattoo me gently, tattoo. First make the mark between my breasts, then do my back. Now this is primitive vernacular poetry where you have glimpses of French feminism, where she talks of tattooing on breasts and thighs. So when man is on the pinnacle of material progress, there is a desire to return to roots, to return to ecology, to nature. And tribal literature will not be the same now, because all these folk songs and songs of the Markalis, they are thousands of years old, and we are lucky that we have their translation in the English language. So it is a rich variety of subject matter. They cover all aspects of life, as I told you, about puberty, about wedding, season, farming equipment. So I assert, and this is my modest assertion, that they may be uneducated. They have their own dialects, but tribal poetry incorporates elements of the pastoral poetry and its varieties of ikhlaq, of bucolic, of Georgics, and they are conscious about ecology. That's why I use the word triple C: collective, community, consciousness about ecology, about nature, what nature gives them. And this is the basic difference between city people and tribals. The city people try to dominate nature. They destroy nature. They cut down trees for their luxury. But tribals do not do so. They in fact celebrate all phenomena of ecology, even the tiniest creatures. And they never, they worship trees. They worship trees as their friends, as their ancestors. And that is how, but today, their lands are being snatched from them. And we have the strange case of Billy Biswas, because we have treatment of tribals in Indian English novel also. The strange case of Billy Biswas in Kamla Markandeya, in Manohar Malgaonkar, in Gita Mehta or River Sutra. But you know, I'm not talking of non-tribal writers. I'm talking of tribal writers, because they give us picture from inside. They still sleep in the open. They still, their dances, their music, they are all imitation of nature. So although the future of tribal literature is bright, but as I told you, it is debating issues of survival, issues of identity, and there is less of celebration. And that's why we have, because in terms of geopolitics, global north is dominating the global south. And global south is being exploited in the name of development, in the name of coal mining, in the name of factories. Their forests are being taken from them. Their lands are taken from them. And we have millions of tribals working in metros, and they are like fish out of water. Thank you. I can go on, but I will not repeat examples. Vis-a-vis green studies and tribals, their life is deeply implicated with ecology. They sustain their life by whatever is given by nature. They collect sal seeds, they collect mahua, and they use every item given by them. Leaves, and they are, I consider them, original exponents of herbal medicine. They treat diseases with leaves, with barks, ecology or eco-criticism than this. Since my lecture was limited in focus, but I could have discussed, as I told you, their poetry is organic, deeply connected with their life. They are not like writers enjoying chicken in 5-star hotel and writing novels on hunger and famine. Their art is sincere. They write what they experience. Because remember, postmodernism considers this question, relationship of art and sincerity. Because remember, Ted Hughes wrote a number of love poems glorifying love, but he harassed Sylvia Plath, and he was held responsible for the suicide of Sylvia Plath, and the followers of Sylvia Plath did not permit him to visit her grave. So tribal poetry is a correlation between sincerity and art. They are sincere, they are committed, and they offer their even lives. They celebrate animals. Their dances, their music is also derived from nature. Everything about a tribal is nature-based. Thank you so much. If you have any question, you can ask. But you can discover the beautiful world of tribal songs by going through Varier Elvin's book, Folk Songs of Chhattisgarh.
Thank you so much, sir.
I recognize Professor Nivedita Mitra because I met her in Roorkee in a seminar, international seminar on Commonwealth literature. She is there, I suppose. Professor Nivedita Mitra. Any clarification? Any question?
So the house is open for the questions. If audience have any query regarding the session, they are free to ask it. Or you may type your question on the chat box.
You know, I have tried to convey whatever I wanted to say through my haikus also. One of my haikus is midnight sky. When you lie on your roof looking at the midnight sky, you have a sense of awe and wonder. So midnight sky, monologue of wonder. Notice the word. Midnight sky, monologue of wonder, muses meteor, muses profession. All romantic poets celebrate this. And ultimately in romanticism, whether it is Wordsworth, Emerson or Tagore, we have three polarities: God, man, God, nature, man, nature. But essentially, there is oneness in them all if you live traditionally. Whereas, you know, we have no time. We have no time to stand in still. We live in concrete jungles and not in forests.
Hello, good evening, sir. So nice to hear my name. I was thinking of talking to you, but then I thought, I don't know whether you'll remember me or
Yes,
not.
yes, I remember. I met you in Roorkee.
Yes, sir, at Haridwar
The
also.
seminar organized by Professor Pashwat Jha.
Yes, yes.
I have a very short memory, I remember.
Yes, we have met in Lucknow also, Haridwar
Yes,
also. Yes, yes, sir. So it's really, and it was really enlightening. Your lecture was wonderful. I was listening it all through. And we were impressed with your energy at that time also, and you have kept it up. So it's very big.
You know, of late I have become a poet. I compose haikus. So I wanted to share them with you because they were relevant to the subject.
Right, sir. They were wonderful, wonderful.
So I guess the audience is all clear, and
once a student told me, sir, we are poor, we can't go to Delhi University, we can't go to JNU, we don't know Derrida, we don't know Bakhtin. So I tell them, I will bring each and every theory to your classroom. And it was in that context, after asking that question about Green Shakespeare, I discussed eco-criticism with them. In fact, one of my students who worked with another professor worked on eco-criticism in scriptures, in Guru Granth Sahib, in Ramayana, in the Quran, in the Bible. So ultimately, all scriptures talk of same things. They have respect for nature, they have respect for greenery, for trees, and even we have, as in Greek life, we have pagan worship of various objects of nature, of, Greek mythology is full of such things. This is the original status.
very true,
Sir,
sir.
we have a,
So there is
a query. There is a query, ma'am.
Yes, Chandan
Sir,
Sohi, sirs.
I talked of pastoral poetry, and as you know, pastoral poetry is divided in four forms. Ikhlaq, description of seasons, then bucolic, description of habitat, then georgics, description of farming equipment, and then idyll. These are the four forms found in English literature also. Tribals did not study English literature, but because of the universal nature of human existence, in their tribal songs, as I demonstrated, they have all the forms. Seasonal songs they have, Baramasi, they have on the death of Shardi, then we have farming equipment, than other things.
Very true.
As I said, I have always taken care not to indulge in high brow scholarship. I am very lucid, very plain, because I have been a teacher for 50 years and I have taught generation of students in a simple manner. A teacher should not complicate theory. He should rather simplify it for students.
Absolutely, sir. This is why we have one of your students from Devbhog who has to seek the answer to the school of criticism in which Amitav Ghosh claims that the entire eco-crisis is a result of British colonialism. So he's seeking your remarks on this, sir.
British colonialism is responsible for the erasure and exploitation of tribals. And, in my lecture, I said, colonialism in India begins with 3T, T cube, traders, thieves, translators. The idea of colony means the idea of loot. The entire railway network they created from Bilaspur to Calcutta to this and that, their purpose was to transport salt trees, chandan trees and all that. And that's why post-colonialism said that if you are truly post-colonial, you will address indigenous concerns. And this has been because post-colonialism means a movement that speaks against injustice, exploitation, and economic disparities.
Thank you, sir. So, so we have just one more question because we are all like the session is extending its limits. So we'll just take a question from Vikas. He wants to ask that you talked about eclogue and bucolics. Are these two terms different from each other? If yes, then
yes, they are different. I told you we have 4 types of pastoral poetry. One is called eclogue, shepherd's calendar, description of 12 seasons, 12 months seasons. Then we have bucolic, description of habitat, dwelling area. And I told that sylvan echo. Tribals live near in forests, near river streams, near lakes. They depend on nature. Then we have Georgics. Georgic means description of farming equipments and farming activities, winnowing, threshing, etc. Then last is idyll, presentation of picturesque landscape. These are 4 varieties of pastoral poetry, and in tribal folk song, we have all of them.
Right, sir. I'll ask Ms. Shweta to invite our chairperson for the day. And yes, you may go ahead.
Moving on to our next segment, which is the summing up of our talk by the chairperson. Should I
check out now? My role is over.
No, sir. We want you to stay for a few minutes, if you can.
After lecture, I get tired. I'm 75, my dear. I'm an old man.
So yeah, absolutely, we understand, sir. But we need you for the presentation of certificates.
Okay.
We'll need you for some more time. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let me introduce
today's I'm very happy that I met you virtually today.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a pleasure meeting you. Really, it is a pleasure meeting you. Right.
So introducing our chairperson for today, Dr. K.S. Saradhamal is an assistant professor and the head of Department of English, Sri Vasavi College, Erode, Tamil Nadu. With 20 years of teaching experience, Madam has guided 12 MPhil scholars, presented papers at several seminars and conferences, published many of research articles in reputed journals. She has completed a UGC minor research project on sensitizing women towards empowerment. Madam, I request you to grace the moment with your remarks.
A very warm good evening to all. Am I audible, please?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, yes.
Okay. it is an honor to share this session with such an illustrious person, a stalwart, I would say, in the field of education, Professor Abidi. So we are honored to listen to you, first of all, the kind of energy that you had. And I owe my gratitude to Ghanshyam sir for this opportunity. So finally, we have become sensible, which means eco-sensible. So that is what I would say here. We have finally become eco-sensible. Preeti ma'am is here, who have dedicated this whole month for eco-sensibility and various programs coming towards that. Today's our resource person, Professor Abidi, began his lecture very beautifully with such a creative essence that he has in his own caliber, the haiku. So we were taken up somewhere high because of your haiku and your representation of haiku with climate crisis and your explanation on multiple Shakespeare and how your haiku concentrates on nature's bounty, man's domination of nature, eco-disaster, and moving on to tribals whose essence of life do not dominate nature and only depend on nature, and they are the primitive people. And you even represented about ecology and scripture, nature worship, and you as such a creative legend in haiku, you concerns on nature, where you bring the point that nature is the center and not man. And even brought about the interdisciplinary approach on eco concerns and connections also between nature and culture. And you brought about the international significance, making representations of Australian literature, Judith Wright's interest in landscapes, and examples of Edwin, how he married to a tribal girl, and his literatures on folk songs. And though he is involved there with the Western thing, he doesn't distort tribal life. And he actually represents tribals in a more positive way. And the most important things of your 5 important things on history, culture, language, identity, and nationalism. And how it has tribal literature has entered into the mainstream of literature has been very clearly pointed out by you with the advent of post-colonialism, wherein the marginality came and where the tribals have now come into it. And though it has been misnomed that tribal literature is a new literature, you clearly pinpointed that it is not a new literature. And your representation, unlike of feminism and Dalits, how tribal literature concentrates on collective community. So how every year the translation of tribal literature has increased. And this shows how tribals who were in the margin have moved on to the center, and where dominance is on oral poetry. For tribal literature, the dominance is on oral poetry, and it is just simply the reflection of devotion to nature. So we have to learn from them how they just not do literature because of some profession, but it is their way of life. So that is the underlying principle that we have been awakened by your lecture, sir. And tribal feminism, so wherein women are being mistreated and how concerns on women are coming towards it. And when you said certain technical words like painted words of tribal literatures, and how tribal literature represents primary, pure, represents coal and not diamond, and very many technical words like ekalak, which talks about months and seasons and many more, and very pertinent issues of man's identity. Original's identity is on the lap of nature, but civilized man is suicidal, going away from nature, going away from culture, going away from God. And but how tribals no deforestation, no pollution. They only depend on nature and they concern on nature. Every move, every step, every breath is on nature. But civilized man have come away from it. We take a long time to go back. And will it be possible? Because I just wanted to here bring about examples of our daily life, our routine life, when we start from brushing our teeth with the toothpaste, which has chemicals, the soap that we use, the washing machine or the refrigerator or the AC that we use, everything, the electricity, all these actually contribute to it. So a civilized man's lifestyle is being here given. So it is in a dire contrast with the tribal life. So the climate concerns which you brought about in a broader perspective, and how you talked about different tribes, Oran tribes, and different types of tribes who belong to Chhattisgarh and other states, and how tribal people actually adore and enjoy through literature in the form of when they attain puberty or the marriage. So when you talked about the monarchy attaining puberty in the song with lines of lines, lemons ripe and tender cake, which actually signifies the exact event that is happening here, and how it interrelates and it correlates with what is happening. And you talked about Jajiks, the hunting, the fishing, and the real state of affairs about the plight of tribes and their dependence on money lenders, and how tribal girls are involved in prostitution. So we are not going to leave them also peaceful. So that is what is happening here. And you gave a very good example about untouched tribal girl, and your haiku was so touching, sir. It touched us, it touched our heart. And a very clear comparison of raw and cooked poetry. So which raw has all aspects of nature, animals are respected, every sound, every nook and corners of the nature's bounty is being experienced. That is tribal literature. So we were just imagining when you said food in leaf cup, tribal dress, ethnic jewelry, tattoos, which are actually being created. That's how we have a lot of examples with our epic literature also. And we have examples of tattoo me, tattoo me, tattoo me, gently tattoo. And that shows how we have enough of examples of how we are actually moving back to primitiveness, connection between modernity and ancients, and return to primitiveness, and the very real feel how tribals are fish out of water. So we have to think here, reflect here, the stark reality of the relationship between art and sincerity. So what we do, we have to act. So that is been very clearly given point blank, sir, by you, with a sincere representation to all of us, and who have attended, to many more people who in future listen to this. So how sincerity plays here. Everything is in nature is represented by the tribals. So when you talked about clouds, huts, mountains, sky, chirping of birds, trees, and even snakes, bees, nature, seasonal songs, marriage, greeneries, it was like a music to our ears. All those words in your own way you represented. I here just in a couple of minutes wanted to share one of the community, tribal community, the Toda community who live in Nilgiris, who actually have moved, are living there for 3,500 years before. And they say if there are no buffaloes, there are no Todas. If there are no buffaloes, there are no Todas. So they are so interdependent on the animals and the nature, and they live in the upper Nilgiris, called as Uti, might be many of you would have heard of. So they now battle the unplanned deforestation that is happening around. There's a greater conflicts, and native picture actually gives a content partner. We can know about these Toda tribals in that native picture. And now they have been reduced to 1,500. And we have many more tribes, including Todas. We have Badagas, Kotas, Irulas, and Kanniyars. So all these people are tribal peoples who live in Nilgiris, the southern hill station that we have in our India. So the final thing that I would say that sir, with it's much Abidi's professor had made a very sincere representation here, like the tribal literature, sincerity. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am, for your remarks. Now I would like to take the opportunity to request the founder and general secretary of iSPELL, Dr. G.A. Ghanashyam sir, who is a professor of English at the Department of Higher Education, Chhattisgarh, to place before us his thoughts and views. Sir, please comment on our event.
Please check, is sir there? I think sir got disconnected. Sir is not here.
I think sir got disconnected. Preeti ma'am.
First of all, I would like to thank Abidi, and I would like to thank our chair for the day, Dr. K.S. Saradambul, for such a beautifully penned, I would say, and beautifully deliberated reflections on the session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your insightful reflections. And now I guess, thank you, ma'am. Now I guess we can move ahead to present certificates. If we have them, yes, Professor. I guess Professor Ghansham has left the meeting due to some issue. And yes, I would like to present the certificate to our very energetic, very dynamic, and with his best of academic aware, Professor Abidi. So this is a small token of love from our side to present this certificate to you. Thank you for being with us here, sir. And this is how we show our indebtedness to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable presence. Now we would like to present the certificate to the chair for the day, Dr. K.S. Saradambul, ma'am. Thank you for being here and for your insightful reflections on the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And this is to present the certificate to Ms. Shweta Sur, Master of Ceremonies, who steered the session well. Thank you for being here. And
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, iSPELL, for believing in me several times.
Thank you, everyone. I heartily thank to everyone who was present here, and this is the flyer for our next session. Join us for the next session, which would be talking about where Dr. Kishwar from Aligarh Muslim University, she would be talking about Occidental and Oriental views of nature on next Sunday, 12th June at 4 p.m. Do join us, and that would be chaired by Dr. Madhu Kamra, ma'am. So please do join us next Sunday. And I would like to thank all our audience and iSPELL and our speaker for the day, Professor Abidi and Sarah ma'am, for coming here and obliging us with their presence and consent. So I would hand over back the mic to Shweta ma'am to propose the formal vote of thanks to everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. I feel honored and privileged to offer the vote of thanks at the conclusion of 91st E-Sunday Sahityik Satsang on Indian tribal literature in English translation, Eco Concern, being conducted by iSPELL. Our most sincere gratitude to Honorable Speaker for today's Sahityik Satsang, Professor Abidi. Sir, we thank you for gracing our event and enlightening us on a topic of utmost relevance. We are really enriched by the knowledge that you have shared with us today, and we hope to listen to you again in the future. Next, I offer thanks to K.S. Saradhamal, Madam, for chairing today's program. Madam, we are immensely grateful for your gracious presence and valuable suggestion, and we hope to implement them in near future. We look forward to your support in all our endeavors. Our words are not enough to express our gratitude to Founder and General Secretary of iSPELL, Dr. Ghanashyam sir. Because of your guidance and support and encouragement, we are here united today as a forum. I take this opportunity to thank the honorable executive members of iSPELL India and Rajasthan who have raised this occasion. I would also extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Preeti Chaudhary ma'am, who is president of iSPELL Rajasthan Forum, for being kind enough to take the responsibility of event coordinator for the month. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants as well as members of iSPELL from different forums for their support and guidance and participation. We hope that our united efforts will continue in this manner and our bonding will grow stronger with time. Thank you.
And thank you to all my team of Rajasthan Forum. I can see Dr. Vishaka here. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Shalini, ma'am, who is founder. The forum was founded with her brainchild, and I would like to thank everyone who has directly or indirectly participated in the event from iSPELL India and iSPELL Rajasthan Forum. Thanks a lot. Again, thanks a lot to Hasina ma'am and Ghansham sir. Thanks a lot for being there. And I think that we shall call it a day. And Professor Abidi, I can see he has left the meeting, but I would again thank him for his patience. And we sort of delayed the dinner of most of us. So I didn't take much of your time, and that's how we end the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. It was wonderful having done all these, and all the best for your future programs. It was a good start with Professor Abidi.
Thank you, ma'am.